Hey all, Michelle Raza here with Finding Yourself SATX Life Coaching, helping you find your best self since 2017. Today we're going to talk about John Gottman's 11 Betrayals, specifically focusing more heavily on the betrayal of lying. And this comes to you after this week's reveal of Brian Johnson, aka the Liver King, coming out that he's been using steroids when he's been advocating for an all-natural, ancestral-based diet. So Dr. Gottman has 11 betrayals in romance, and obviously none of us are in a romantic relationship with Brian Johnson, but the Liver King did have a relationship with all of his clients, and many of them will no longer be buying from him anymore. And so all of us have relationships in work, outside of work, in our personal lives, and of course in our romantic relationships. So it definitely applies here. Before we get started, I did want to announce the winner of last video's raffle. So Smell of Oranges, if you're watching, please do contact me by going to my website, www.findingyourselfsatx.com. And please, y'all, don't forget to enter this week's raffle. We're giving away our free digital coaching package, which is currently on sale, 50% off. Just go to our website, www.findingyourselfsatx.com. So before I go into the topic, some of you may not know who this person is. I think he's internet famous, not really famous. But he does have, according to an article that I read on the Wall Street Journal posted December 6th, does have a business of $100 million business in supplements of beef liver, organs, bones, etc. He was really pushing this ancestral diet. He was like a lifestyle guru, super ripped, very handsome, bushy man, if you like a big man. Millions of followers, and he talked about how you get to look like him, and he said you get to look like him by eating beef brains, bull testicles, raw animal livers, etc. And so that's why he called himself the Liver King, or he calls himself the Liver King. Some people who looked at him said, that guy looks like he's on steroids, but he would specifically state to his public and his followers that he wasn't using steroids. And then it came out this week. It was I don't know how the person got the email, but it was a private email that basically annotated his entire anabolic steroid regimen between him and his doctor, or the doctor that was giving it to him. I don't know if that's legal or illegal or what, but anyway, long story short, the guy was lying to his fans, his public, and all these men who were trying to look like him and eating all of this raw organs and livers. I mean, I don't know how many of them got sick, but the guy wasn't practicing what he was preaching. And I think this is an old story in the sense of, our politicians, this often happens with them. Our celebrities, same story, right? Someone cheats, someone betrays another person. That's kind of like the gossipy news, right? That's what you want to watch. You want to hear all the dirty details about this Liver King and how he's a fraud. Anyone who betrays someone, we're instantly gravitating to hear about their story, what happened, and how terrible they are. Why? Because inside of us, we know that a betrayal, whether it's within a romantic relationship, in a parent-child relationship, at work, or here, right, between a $100 million businessman and his public and his clientele, it's something that cuts to our core. And so Dr. John Gottman, in his book, What Makes Love Last, which we've covered on one of our playlists, and I'll link the playlist to the betrayals here on this video as well. He talks about how relationships flounder. And his book is focused primarily on romantic relationships, but he talks about how our relationships flounder. And so the thing that comes to mind for most people when you're talking about romantic relationships is just cheating, right? Your person has an affair, and it wasn't a relationship of ethical non-monogamy or an open relationship, and essentially they've betrayed you by going behind your back and sleeping with someone else. Give me a second. So I don't think anyone would deny, right, that that's a pretty obvious betrayal. cheating, infidelity. Gottman talks about the descent into betrayal. How do we even get there, right? How does a committed, monogamous person all of a sudden find themselves cheating? And what you always hear is, well, I didn't mean for it to happen. And essentially, it's what Gottman says is, you brush it under the rug until the rug bunches. And so by avoiding conflict with your partner, you end up just kind of gravitating towards people who maybe aren't as critical of you. And before you know, one day, you find yourself in a romantic relationship with them as opposed to the partner who you're supposed to be with, right? Raising kids and the entire journey that we call life. Anyway, so that's the most obvious betrayal, right? Cheating, infidelity. What Gottman talks about is that there's this concept, and he relates it to another therapist who I'd have to look up in order to quote. But he calls it the windows and walls of a relationship. So if you imagine, and I'll actually draw it on my little journal for you. But if you imagine between you and your partner, right? So there's a wall around us where you and I have a relationship, and then there's a window where we share everything, right? And so we protect the other person. When anybody on the outside is trying to criticize, we protect them, and then between each other we can talk about anything, right? So that's like, think about like, you know, you can criticize your little sister and pull her hair, but if anybody on the playground said anything about your little sister, you'd come to her defense immediately and probably, you know, get into a playground fight or something. So that's kind of the windows and walls type thing. But whenever you don't want to discuss things with your partner, basically you're building up a wall between the two of you. And then maybe you open up a window to someone else. Someone at the coffee shop who's nicer and who doesn't have anything critical to say about you. And that's how we descend into betrayal. So if you get a chance, please do check out that video playlist on Gottman's Betrayals. It really is worth your while. It kind of gets lost in the slew of people trying to tell you how to find love. I like Dr. Gottman because he's not just talking about his own life experiences. He actually failed at marriage twice before he was successful. And he was only successful, I think, because he had this place called the Love Lab where he studied people and he strapped them up to measure their hormone levels and their heart rates and the hormone secretions in their urine for stress hormones, and basically was able to determine what makes relationships successful versus unsuccessful. And his book kind of lays it out for you. So it's really, really good. I cover it in detail in the other playlist. Anyway, so after betrayal is conditional commitment. And this is when you haven't fully committed to your partner and you kind of always have one eye out for someone else who may be more handsome, more beautiful, taller, skinnier, make more money, whatever it is. You're kind of always on the lookout for another partner. And that really doesn't allow you to build with your current partner. Emotional affairs. So that's looking back at the windows and walls. That's when you, in order to have a very deep friendship with someone else, and the crux is if you're keeping it secret between you and your spouse, then you're opening a window to the other person and a wall between you and your spouse. So that's an emotional affair. So if you're kind of keeping a friendship secret, especially if it's someone that you would sleep with if you were single, if you're keeping it secret and you're not telling your significant other about it, then it may be an emotional affair, and it's worth looking, deep within, staring at your belly button, as they say, and taking a look to see what you're doing and whether it's a deception or a betrayal to your partner. And then number 4, of course, lying. And so this is where we go back to Mr. Liver King and him adamantly telling us and telling his followers, right, that he was not on steroids, and the way that he looked, the reason why he looked the way he looked was because of his all-natural diet focused mostly on animal organs. Millions of followers because he ate beef brains, bull testicles, raw animal livers, and then had $100 million supplement company where he sold you the same in pill format. He had, as of December 6th, when the Washington Post published that article, he had 2.6 million hits on YouTube, basically coming out on a video and apologizing for what he'd done. which I did watch that video. And to be honest, so first off, it's the betrayal of lying, right? And the reason why that's so important in a relationship, any relationship, so this is a client relationship, is that it takes a lot for someone to be able to trust after you've shown them with a lie that you're untrustworthy. And so if he had, he has 2.6 on his apology video, but many of those people may never buy supplements from him again. And if you just think about it, I mean, I think it's an tried and true, and it's an old saying, that the Japanese broken bowl that is repaired with gold. It is very beautiful once it's repaired. It's never quite as strong as the original bowl was, because of the lies, because of the betrayal, right? When you drop something, when you break it, it just takes one little lie to break an entire relationship that you've made with someone. And it's very, very difficult to patch up, and it's never quite the same. So I'm not trying to extrapolate, right? This guy is not in a romantic relationship with you, with me, with any of his, clients that bought $100 million worth in supplements, but he did probably just put himself into bankruptcy by getting exposed in a lie, by being a fraud. And so you think about that, how someone's life can basically be over because of one lie. And it's the same if you're in a romantic relationship and, you did one little lie, and then before you knew it, you were sleeping with someone else, and the lies become so big and so compounded, and you have so much shame that you really find it difficult to be able to come clean about it. That's how you get to the point of saying, I don't know how this happened. I'm not quite sure how this happened, right? Number 5, in terms of romantic relationships, is forming a coalition against your partner. And so that Dr. Gottman talks about, it's pretty funny. He talks about the Let's Hate Tim Club. And so it's a pretty common one with in-laws, actually, where the wife and her mother kind of just bonded by gossiping about Tim and everything about him and criticizing everything about him. And his wife never really realized that that was a betrayal until she went to therapy and understood that she wasn't backing up her partner. And so then she, to her mother, kind of made it clear, like, I'm with him and I'm going to be loyal to him, not going to be part of the Let's Bash Tim Club. And it took a while. I mean, her mother just doubled down first. She doubled down and tried to bash him more because that was the way that she felt close to her daughter. And then eventually just realized, like, she had to find another way. That wasn't going to work anymore. And their marriage significantly improved because just imagine, that someone's going to go spend time with their family, and then while they're doing that, they're doing nothing but criticizing you. And then from her side, he probably didn't want her spending time with the family, and then she felt like, well, he doesn't even support me seeing my family, right? So number 6 is absenteeism or coldness. And so that's where you refuse to talk about issues, you refuse to discuss anything. Maybe you use the silent treatment against your partner, but then you don't discuss things. And it is okay to take time and space from each other when you need it. For example, if you're having a fight and one of you gets flooded, right, you're not going to be able to see reason. And Dr. Gottman, actually, it's super funny, he in the Love Lab, they would pretend that equipment had malfunctioned for about when fights were getting really heated. They would pretend that equipment had malfunctioned and give the couple about 20 minutes to relax and say, hey, the camera's not working, if you can just do something else for 20 minutes and then you can come back to the fight. And lo and behold, when they would come back to the fight, they were like different people. You give your body time to adjust and relax. And so anyway, absenteeism or coldness is not being willing to discuss issues with your partner, giving them the silent treatment. Also just maybe being cold or indifferent to their struggles, not responding to bids when they're trying to form a bid for connection. You just kind of look the other way, or you don't pick it up, or you don't really seem interested in what they have, their inner world, right? You need to be interested in your partner's inner world. Number 7, withdrawal of sexual interest. I think that one's pretty self-explanatory. Number 8, disrespect. So not treating them as you would like to be treated. Double standards. Just that one's pretty easy and straightforward too. You don't respect them. Unfairness. So it's respect and disrespect. That's number 8. Number 9 is unfairness. 10 is selfishness, and 11 is breaking of promises. So all of these are pretty straightforward. I mean, if you wouldn't want it for you, or then why would you do it to them? That's, being respectful. Unfairness or selfishness, so doing things for yourself but not including them. And that doesn't mean that you don't do self-care. It's more like when you never do anything for your partner and you're only doing things for yourself. Life is about balance, right? And then breaking of promises. So that's a pretty common one, a pretty easy one. And it's in lots of relationships, especially parent-child relationships. There's no quicker way to have a child not believe anything that you have to say. All it takes is one broken promise to them. And that's kind of the same as lying. So all of these betrayals are just kind of different facets of the same thing, right? So bringing it back to this TikTok star who made a living just starting in August of 2021. I have a friend that says, and I think it's funny, you rise fast and then you fall fast. So God knows if a year from now he'll just have been a blip. But hopefully not too many people got sick trying to eat raw organs based on his advice. And it seems like, just that relationship with he and his clients has been severely impacted by the fact that this was a betrayal. And, he was saying one thing, doing another. And so the important thing for us to think about is we're talking about romantic relationships, parent-child relationships, relationships at work, even relationships with your clients, right? My relationship with you all, right? If I keep talking to you about all of this stuff and I don't follow my own formula, then what am I really sharing with you, and what kind of validity do I have? Why would you want me as a life coach? And honestly, I mean, there's two sides to that story. I've had friends tell me, well, your life isn't perfect, so why are you trying to help other people? And it's like, well, anything that I've conquered, I can help someone else with, and I can help them from a place of empathy, because I've been there before. But also, if I chose not to help myself, if I had chosen to remain a codependent without coming out of it, lots of things that I feel like, even, I don't know how long you guys have been following me, but I lost 50 pounds. Not just for the fans, not just for the YouTube, but just for my own health. I mean, I got tired of feeling sluggish and unhealthy. So if I wasn't living a life that I would want someone to emulate, that I would want for my daughter, right? If I wasn't living a life that I would want for my daughter, and then I was preaching to you guys about living your best life and all this stuff, finding yourself, finding your best self, why would you believe me? So I think the lying aspect of developing a relationship is very, very important. And it's one of my strongest values in my own life and my personal life at work. So I'm an employee, and I often get in trouble. I never get in trouble for slacking or anything. I just get in trouble for being a loudmouth and saying things when other people won't say things, and they know that it's rude to say things. But I will say things because they're true and because they need to be said. And so, there's two sides to every coin, right? So being completely honest is great. Being completely honest can also get you in trouble. But anyway, just wanted to bring you something having to do with current affairs, current gossip and rumors and internet celebrity, right? This Liver King lied to his entire public, and will probably be losing a lot of clients now. And how that relates to John Gottman's What Makes Love Last. We have an entire playlist covering that book in detail. The 11 betrayals. How do you betray someone without even meaning to? That's how. And so he goes into it pretty deeply. If you want to pick up that book, it's an excellent read. Also, don't forget to enter our raffle. I love seeing y'all's comments. I love interacting with you. And our entire store is 50% off for the entire month of December. So normally you can get started with your personal vision statement for $9.99. Right now, I think it's cut down to $4.99. I had that crazy Black Friday special for the entire digital coaching package for only $4.99. Right now, I believe it's $34.99. These are all US dollars. And then you can also get it for free by emailing me and entering into our raffle. All right. So y'all take care. I am working on wrapping up Melody Beattie's book, Codependent No More. I'm just reading through her 2022 version of that book. So thank you guys who contacted me for that as well. She has some updated sections on trauma in there, which I want to be able to understand very well before I bring out to you guys. So thanks for being here with me. Really, really love interacting with you. Please like and subscribe. It really does help us little YouTubers. And we'll talk more in a couple weeks. Y'all take care. Bye-bye.